Welcome to Drinks, Jokes, and Storytelling, the ESPN for all things comedy, with your hosts, Mark Riccadonna and Richie Byrne. And now, grab a drink and welcome Mark Riccadonna and Richie Byrne.
Hey, welcome to Drinks, Jokes, and Storytelling. I'm your host, Mark Riccadonna. With me, as always,
Richie Byrne. I never know which side you're going to be on.
It's exciting, right? It's nice to be live with you, buddy. It's been a while.
Yeah, we're going to be face to face soon. Well, mask to mask, right?
Yeah, I'm very pumped. We got a lot of fun things, I think, coming as soon as things start opening up more too.
Yeah, we need things to start opening up, man. I'm losing it, bro. I'm losing it. I really am.
Well, come into the city tonight. I'm at the comic strip. Come and join
me. Really? Oh, wow.
Yeah. I think Roach is coming in. Come in with him.
I wish I could. I got something I got to take care of.
No problems.
I got a thing.
I got a thing. Well, today's going to be a very special episode. I'm very excited about this. We not only have another guest host, but we also have a very special guest that I'm really excited for us to all chat with. I just did his podcast, and I had a blast. This man is he's a composer. He knows his stuff when it comes to music, but really knocked me out with how much he knows about comedy. He's a very he's a self-proclaimed comedy nerd, but I think the man is just all right with me. But let's bring out our comedy host, our nice special host. Vicky Plummer is here. Hey, Vicky.
Hi, guys. I love it. Our nice special host.
Yeah,
hello.
Well, I was going to say guest, and then I stammered over the word, and so.
It's all good.
Hi, Vicky.
Hey, how are you feeling, Richie? You better this week?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm okay. You know.
Good.
Richie gets COVID once a month. He's
getting used to it. I know.
Yeah, my middle name now is COVID.
Oh, good. You got the Omnipop, right?
The Omnipop. Yes, I got the Omnipop. So, yeah.
You got the Coben.
The Coben.
He's always getting the Coben.
Getting the Coben. That's what my mom would say. You got the Coben. I'm glad you're doing well, though. That's good.
Well, I hope you guys have a drink ready. I hope you're ready to buckle in because Jason is ready to go. Let's bring him out. Jason Tramm's here, our very special guest.
Jason.
Hey, everyone. It's great to meet you all. And I want some of Richie's blood. I think that could be a good, deterrent for COVID.
The next few months, I'm set to go. I can do anything I want. I can make out with people, whatever I want to
do. He's licking elevator buttons. Richie has no fear.
Doorknobs, you name it.
Unfortunately, that's how I got it in the first place. But
well, Jason, I'm so glad that you could join us. I was on your podcast, which give a plug to anybody who's watching on our end. Plug away at your podcast.
I am the host of Music Matters with Jason Tramm, and I just have discussions about innovations and self-discoveries that artists make during challenging times. And you were the first stand-up comedian I've had on the show. We had Stephen He, who's become a YouTube comedy sensation, but you were the first stand-up, and I was so excited. We have mutual friends, Justin Gonzalez, who's been on the show, and a dear friend of mine and a great colleague. And I was just so excited to have this conversation across genres because I find there's so much synchronicity with the arts, and I love to have those type of discussions. So I can't wait to talk today.
Yeah. And and you're with a really cool group because everybody in here is not just a single talent. Everybody bounces around. Richie is he's a great actor. He's also, I can't believe how great of a singer, because I no offense, Richie, but when we hang out, I don't picture you belting out these tunes that you do when you start singing. And Vicky also works in the theater. And so we have a nice rounded group where we can discuss some art. But let's get started with how I like to start the shows. Let's get started with a drink. We'll start off with you, Jason. What are you drinking?
I am drinking an Irish coffee, a bit of Bailey's in my coffee because I have a ton of work to do today, and I've been working around since about 8 o'clock. The semester at Seton Hall is about to start. I've got concerts on the docket, and I find the coffee keeps me rocking and rolling.
Nice. Richie, what do you got?
Ironically, I have Kahlua and coffee.
Great
Since
minds.
we switched to afternoons, this has become a theme.
With a really cute apple decor on my.
I like it. Vicky, what do you happen to be drinking this afternoon?
Well, I have a little cinnamon spice iced tea, the ice melted. But for the alcohol part, I'm wearing, Corona beer t-shirt. How's that? Is that all right?
Nice. I decided to go with it's called Firestone Cinnamon Dolce. It's a stout. It's cinnamon and vanilla. Let's see how it is. I haven't tried it yet. I bought a 6-pack of it.
Taste it now. Let me know what it tastes.
I'm gonna pour it because it's a stout. So yeah, let's talk jokes. Jason, you got a joke
kick
for
things
us?
Off, and I must say it's pretty intimidating going up with these comedy professionals. But I am a dad and I'm a university professor, and I love to make eyes roll for teenagers. That is one of my favorite things in the world. So,
well, if you've seen my act, you wouldn't say professional.
Well, I'm going to see it tonight. So in New York
right.
City, I can't wait.
Oh, really? You're going to the Strip?
I'm on the way. Yeah, tonight.
Oh, nice. Where are you out?
I'm in Nanuet, New York, which is 45 minutes out of the city. Yeah, I always tell my New Yorker friends who have no idea where we think I live in, somewhere in Canada. I'm like, you go over the George Washington, make a right, about 20 miles. That's my house.
One of the first comedy clubs I ever performed at was in Nanuet.
Oh, wow.
Comedy Loft, which
Nice.
is a few years ago now. Wow.
I know.
A few years ago now.
Yeah.
Back in the dark age.
Like 35.
So my first joke is going to be, I apologize in advance to any accordion players I may offend, but they'll be on their own. What's the definition of a gentleman?
What?
Someone who can play the accordion but chooses not to.
Oh, that's good.
I'll be here all week. Try the veal.
Very nice. Very nice.
I love it. That was great. All right, let's give this drink a drink. Smells good. It actually smells like cinnamon. Ooh.
Good.
Yeah. It's Imagine Guinness, but with cinnamon in it. It's really good.
Cinnamon.
A cinnamony.
Nice.
I have fresh breath now.
It's like a Guinness.
So, Jason, did you grow up? Where did you grow up? Where was home originally?
I grew up in Nanuet, New York, so I grew up in the suburbs. Okay. I've been around the suburbs most of my life. My dad worked in the city. I was singing from a very young age. As soon as I can remember, I was always an artist. I was always singing. I was always making music. At 5 years old, I did my first solo in church, and that just this is what I do. I just loved it. To feel the audience moved and to get people excited. And I had two older brothers, one younger, and they would be like, "Shut up!" We weren't musical. My family wasn't professional musicians. My mom played the piano some. My father just loved it. He worked at a power plant in New York, but it was always part of my life. And as I got older, I experimented with classical music. I also sang in a rock band. I'm a huge rock fan. But once they discovered I had a tenor voice, they pushed me to classical music and musical theater. And I wound up getting degrees in music and becoming a music teacher. And I had I was a high school director at a wonderful school in Summit High School. And I said, I want to do something different with my life. I had a crazy idea. I was teaching for about 5 years, and I had a great job, and I loved my kids and all that. But I had this crazy idea. I want to become a conductor. And I was always conducting. I took classes in it in college. But I said, I want to put all the chips on the table and just become a conductor. So I quit my tenure-track job. I founded my own festival. It took me a lot of effort, but I founded a festival, and I it was very successful, and I got a full ride for my doctorate at Rutgers. So I did my doctorate degree in Rutgers, and while I was there, I met incredible people who pushed me, and a conductor at Rutgers pushed me to go to Europe. So I did 2 summers working with professional orchestras in Romania, where I got my ass handed to me regularly, working with a large professional orchestra. And then I would come back and work with groups here, and I started doing a lot of opera work, and my career kind of took off after that. And I get to do my favorite life. I get to work with tons of great artists in lots of different places. I get to travel. I get to teach at a university. I'm at Seton Hall University, where I bring that I bring that back to my students, and I just have a job that I love. Like Mark, when Mark was on my podcast, it's just, you can do so many different things in the arts. And I can honestly say in music, I've done most of them. And I just love to explore new things. I find new skill sets. I just keep on learning. Every day I'm learning. Today I learned a new overture because I'm doing a concert in March. And, it's just exciting to discover.
Wow. How do you go into, just the idea of wanting to become a conductor? Like it's as an actor going in the directing, it's like it feels like an obvious choice because you're doing the acting, but then you start to want to get involved more on the bigger scale. Is that kind of the similar ride with conducting?
Yeah, it is. It's similar to if you become an actor. Let's say you were an actor and you want to become a director. It's probably very on the similar path, right? How do you become a director? Well, everyone's got a different route to get there, right? It's a totally different path for every single person. So for me, I was a singer always. I wanted to be an opera singer after college, and I was working professionally. I was singing in the choirs in New York and doing small roles with regional companies, but I didn't have the size voice to make a career in the opera field. But I had the heart of that music. I want to, sing these great big roles, but I couldn't. So I learned how to conduct them. And, I was good as a singer, but it wasn't until they put a stick in the hand and an ensemble in front of the orchestra, chorus, whatever it is, that I can make magic happen. It just worked for me. I would get in front of these groups and people would be like, wow, there would be like that sparkle. When I sang, sometimes it was there, but not all the time. And the audience reaction tells me an awful lot. It told me an awful lot. But when I started conducting, it just worked for me. It just, it took me a lot of different places. And, it's a blessing to get to make music with different people in different countries and cultures. And, I was adding up, if on a busy year pre-COVID, I would conduct for 4,000 or 5,000 different artists, singers, opera singers, concerto soloists. It's just fascinating. And it's like, it's just fascinating to look back at the people you make music with, and you form friendships. It's really a special thing.
How do you get gigs as a conductor? Do you have an agent?
I do have an agent.
Really? I was joking.
I've had multiple agents in my career, and they mostly
Broadway
get to the
Danny Rose.
It's there. Most of the time these days, the gigs are self. I get them myself. I build them myself. I have steady jobs. I've contracted positions where I'm like music director of an organization or artistic director of an organization, but I also do a lot of producing now. I founded my own production company called Mid-Atlantic Artistic Productions, and I do a lot of concert production work, orchestral contracting. I just found out that I had to learn this stuff because I was the director of the New Jersey State Opera, and as the budgets got tighter and tighter and smaller, I had to become the orchestra contract. I had to become the choral contract. I had to find the singers. So I just said, I like doing this. I like people. That's kind of the hallmark. I love to work with people. And I just learned that, if there's not a job and you want to do it, produce it yourself. And so I do a mixture of all those things. So if there's months when I'm not that busy, I'll look at producing a show. And I've been doing a lot of recordings lately. That's been really interesting. So, I just love to explore and keep my schedule full and do the planning. The one thing you learn when you're an artist is that if you're in charge, you can kind of set your own schedule, which is really exciting.
Yeah.
I love this. I used to be the director of a program called Broadway Classroom, and we worked with performers and conductors like you and groups from around the world. And one of my favorite things was, and I'm going to ask you about this in depth in a question in a second, was when you would see a kid that teachers would sometimes label a troublemaker, and most of the time was a kid that probably just wasn't getting what they needed in school. I love that he's pointing at Richie.
I didn't want to interrupt you, but I was going to say in the business, we call that a riccadonna.
But one of my favorite things is most of the time when a child like that came into a workshop where they were working with a conductor or working with a Broadway performer, you could literally see them light up. And I'm going to cry probably as I say this. But it was like they finally connected. They finally got something that they weren't getting in school. And I would get letters from the teachers and they would tell me about these kids later on that, you know, Joey is now getting better grades. He's in the school play. He joined the band, all from a 90-minute workshop where they finally, it's like a little thing unlocked in their brain or something. And I find that to be so amazing and moving because that's what happened to me. I was not a good student. I was always all over the place and I was helping other students in first grade. My teacher wrote on the report card, she needs to sit down. She needs to do her work. And she actually put me in a refrigerator box around my desk with a stack of papers and said, you're going to sit there till you get all this work done. And I remember standing on top of my desk and going, Mrs. Bell, I'm all done. Halfway through the day. And I thought was going to kill herself at the end of the day. But it was because she didn't know how to deal with an artistic kid, you know? And then finally my mom
have different
put me in an art
brains.
program. Yeah. Now I know how to deal with it now. But at the time it was the early 70s. They didn't know how to deal with that stuff. Music, art, I knew how to paint then, all that stuff, drama, all that. And now I know how to use my brain right. But they didn't at the time.
It takes a long time to wire that and to figure out how to be productive.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at my kids I have 4 kids and they're 22, twin 19-year-old girls, excuse me, and a 17-year-old boy. And they've watched me grow up in this. And, you know, we're all kind of artistic types, you know, like, you know, our brains work in very unique ways. I've got piles of projects but I know where everything is. And I kind of map them out over time. But when I was similar experience, when I was in elementary school, they thought, you know, I had 2 brothers who were brilliant mathematicians. My father was into engineering and very smart, but I couldn't do math at all. It just didn't work for me. I was totally right-brained. So I've learned how to bridge the right and the left and to find a way to kind of make that work for me and work my work. I make lots of lists and follow my lists and cross them off because there's just so many things going on. But I love and I thrive on multiple projects at any given time. I love mapping out a season, which is like 15, 20 concerts for different groups. And I just kind of do that. And it's, you know, I do it mostly at 3 a.m. I love to work at night. I'm a night owl.
I got to ask you, are you dyslexic?
Yes, as I was mildly dyslexic as a child.
Because they always say I'm dyslexic, and I had to take special classes when I was in
school. I liked you. I did too.
There's nothing better than everybody's going to recess, except you, Riccadonna. Go to that trailer, and you're going to learn how to spell shirt.
It's got to be tough to be dyslexic and have to spell the last name Riccadonna.
Oh.
For me, it was D's and B's reversed.
Yep. And my ends were always back. There was a lot of bad things in my. But the thing with dyslexic brains is the way they work is they can see. They say they can see the forest, but can't see what kind of trees they are. Where most people can't see the forest through the trees.
Fascinating. Yeah, people get bogged down. In my field in music, my job is to see the forest. So let's say I get hired to work with an orchestra. I have 4 rehearsals. I've got to take Beethoven's Fifth Symphony or some great masterwork, one of the great pillars of Western culture and classical music. I've got to take and make that piece come alive. So, you know, I've got to see the entire structure of the piece. I have to know the details and the finer points, and I've got to tell the players how to play. But I've got to be able to see the large scale while I'm rehearsing it and kind of imparting that to the players because they've got their parts in front. They're playing their parts at a professional level. But my job is to steer the ship the entire way there. So it's interesting. Yeah.
It's funny, Vicky. It's funny what you said, and Jason, both of you. I'd love to know what you think about this because I was a kid of the 70s in school, and it seemed like the arts were always the thing that they would try and take away from you if you were bad or if you did something.
Punishment.
And I remember thinking, even as a kid, I remember thinking, man, this is the first thing I've shown any interest in.
Right.
And it's the thing you want to take, like you're going to go, oh, we're going to stop you from doing the only thing that you've ever shown an interest in.
Right.
I never
talk about the way to crush a child's dreams. That would be it.
Do you think that's changed a lot? Do you think they now try and use the arts for children? Like you said, there are kids who just aren't good at math and yet have an affinity for whatever, painting or music or whatever. Do you think that they're in less? Does that happen less, I guess, is my question.
It's interesting. I guess the arts are always on the chopping block. In my experience, I've been in education too, as well as the professional arts scene. And it's the easiest thing to cut is the arts. I mean, they're not going to cut math and science. They never want to cut that, but they want to keep the
right.
But it's fascinating. Some of the greatest mathematicians and scientists are wonderful musicians as well.
Yeah.
So it's such a damaging thing, because that's where Albert Einstein, his brother was a professional violinist and he was an amateur violinist. So he would play in the Princeton Community Orchestra, because even a great mind like that knows it's so important to be making art.
Yeah.
Well, and I don't think people realize, like, so many life skills come from the arts, like communication, teamwork, listening skills. All of those are things you learn from being in a play.
Teamwork, you think about everyone has the same direction, right? When we all have the same, I find this when I conduct in Europe a lot, and I don't even speak that. For example, I was in Albania doing the premiere of Porgy and Bess, of all random things, and they didn't speak English. I didn't speak Albanian. I spoke broken Italian. They, a translator spoke broken English that they got maybe half of every time I said give notes, but they can read my language and my gesture, but by the end, it's like we're all together. We would sit at the cafe and we would, drink a coffee together, and you just learn to appreciate each other. And that's what the arts do. It lets you see through a different lens. It lets you see different cultures, different people, and and when you all have a unified goal, that was a moderate Muslim country, and there was a mosque next door to the opera house. It was fascinating just to make music with these people and to make friendships with these people. And I'm just amazed by what's possible when the arts are happening and thriving.
It makes me so sad.
Elizabeth, I totally agree.
Yeah, I agree with her too. It makes me so sad when schools think like reading, writing, arithmetic, the 3 R's. Well, yes, those are important, but what's the first thing that happened when lockdown came? Everyone started watching movies. Everyone started reading books and listening to music. Like, you take away the artists, what do you have? Did we start doing math tables? No. You know what I mean? Like, you needed the arts first. That was the first thing that everyone went to.
Yeah.
That was super important.
Even this way, even all of the, the comics and everything, they ended up having their own podcasts or whatever, just because live streams and
we were all in the same boat. Look at the from my field, we was decimated. I mean, that's why I started the Music Matters podcast, is to let artists talk about innovations and self-discoveries they made during the most challenging time that's ever existed. Before COVID and before the closing of Broadway and the Met, that had never happened in our society before in the history of those organizations. So maybe they were canceled for a blizzard for a night, and I think 9/11 canceled it for a week. But a year and a half has never happened for these humongous organizations, and we lost a lot of artists because of that.
Yeah.
I think there were a lot of people that were on the cusp, and especially with mental issues, that were on the cusp of they were great artists, but they're just mentally not stable and not filled. And when this happened, I think a lot of people went, screw it, this is my sign, I'm out. And we lost a lot of great artists who went in to go get a day job and leave the arts. And it's really heartbreaking because of all the great art that may be missing. I mean, I know a couple guys offhand, just as stand-up comics, who I think are really funny, who aren't doing it now. And even now some gigs are coming back, and I hit them up and they're like, yeah, I'm not doing it. I got a job at this insurance sales, and I'm going to do that. And it's like, you got to come back. Like,
I don't like to talk about it on air, but I'm going through that a lot right now, Mark, as far as, I'm really reaching out to get work, and it's kind of, I'm like, I don't know what I want. I don't know it's odd for me after 30 years of constantly, when I stopped, I went, well, what am I doing? And I need to rethink where I am and what I want to do.
I think a lot of people had a mental reset, and like I prioritized and realized there's a lot of things I'm not going to do anymore because I would rather be with my family than certain gigs or certain things. And I had to prioritize, but I think there's a lot of people, and especially people who are true artists, that are just, they might not have the mental ability to really reevaluate, and they leave for good. And that, and Richie, I know what you and I talk regularly, but it's insane to think, how long have you been in this business? And right now you have to reevaluate things on.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Mark, if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't have done anything during the last 2 years. I mean, everything I've done in the last 2 years is because Mark Riccadonna went, hey, we're doing this tomorrow. And I go, okay.
In my fields, I had singers in the Metropolitan Opera. I mean, friends of mine who would not say this publicly, but some of them did on the air. They would be working landscape jobs. They would be, you name it, they did it. I mean, it was just, we all have to make a living. It's a challenging thing.
How many ventriloquists right now are working at Home Depot? Not only can I mix your paint, I can do it while drinking this glass of water.
I think sometimes, though, like, there are seasons, you know what I mean? It ebbs and it flows, and there are times when mentally you got to take a break. And, you guys know I took 12 years away. I left. It got really hard. It got really hard for a while. I had to take a break. I didn't mean to take that long away. I had a lot of, medical issues. I beat cancer during that time. I had a lot of things happen. And then when I did come back, I had to start from the bottom, and I started back again. But I was so excited to be back. I didn't care. I was like, all right, let's start over again. And then what happened 1 year in? The pandemic. But I took that time to just like use that as like fresh energy and say, okay, well, everyone is in this boat. I was depressed for about 2 months because I also lost my real job, which was dealing with Broadway, which I'd worked for 17 years. And I went, well, let's figure it out. Everyone's in a new normal. And this was part of it, doing Zoom shows and doing podcasts. I got to learn that, old dog learns new tricks, and I figured things out, and I met you guys, and that was an awesome thing. Even though, what was it, like 2 months before I actually met you in person, Mark? And then Richie, I think it was like 5 months that I met you in person. Yeah. But I was like, right away, I was like, these guys are good, genuine people, and I'm excited to work with them. They're so creative and so fun, and it ebbs and it flows like an ocean. You know what I mean? I know down the road, there are going to be new opportunities, Richie, and there are going to be good things for you in store. Right now, it's just one of those weird things that it's like the dead of winter, and we have the Omni Pop. Things are going to happen, though.
I have a humongous, a big part of my heart goes out to journeymen. The people who are just doing it and making livings at it, and I have no care for the celebrity status people. Like, not that I don't care, but they don't interest me. I like the working class artists. Those are the people I really love. And I feel like this has affected them so badly. And there are so many, like Richie, what you were just saying a little bit ago. I know so many comics that I look up to, and I think they're just amazing. And I would hit them up and go, hey, listen, we're doing this thing on Zoom. We're doing a podcast. You have to come on. You have to do this. And they go, yeah, I'm not doing that shit. I'm going to wait until this is over. And I'm like, I get it. It's not live stand-up comedy, but you have to do something. If you don't put your creativity out there, not that you're going to lose it, but you're going to lose it. Yeah. Right. It's like you can be... Mr. Olympia, the biggest, most muscle-bound, greatest athlete. If you don't go to the gym for 2 years, you're going to be a chubby, muscular guy, you're not going to be able to play.
And Mark,
that's the truth.
I haven't gone to the gym for 2 years.
Jason, now I don't know if you know Richie, but Richie used to be an underwear model right before the pandemic.
Yeah.
This is what happens.
Wow.
I was the before.
Thank you, Jonathan.
I tell you, I'm always amazed with what the
go ahead.
podcast platform allows us to do. You know, there's this kind of like mystique around artists, around conductors, around comedians, until you get to know like the process. And I'm fascinated by that. I always tell people most of my job is studying music or writing budgets at 3 a.m. It's like, you know, people see me on the stage waving my arms around in front, and so that's the exciting part. But the thousands of hours that go into the prep work, the budgeting, the process like that, and then the rehearsal process, that's most of our job.
Right.
And it's just interesting that, you know, people on the podcast platforms, you get to meet the people. You really get to know people in a way that you can't in traditional media.
Yeah. Well, and Jason, with what you were just saying about we talked about this a little on your podcast, but to me, the practice is what's fun. The game is the icing on the cake. And it was just like in high school playing sports. I loved practice. The game is just the result of practice. If you don't like practice and you only want to do the game, man, this is a hard life.
It's going to be a long life, and you're going to be very, very miserable chasing that dragon, as you said on my podcast. Yeah, it's, you know, the process is everything in the arts, right? It's like, you know, the process, a healthy process can create a million jobs. Right, it's not just any of anything. It's the whole kind of series, the way you think about, the way you structure your life.
Yeah, and to go back to saying about creating all the jobs, and that's one thing I love about Richie. And I didn't know his background before we started the podcast, and then we started to get to know each other's background more. But like, I'd be hanging out with Richie, thinking he's just this dude who is really funny. Next thing you know, I'm like, you should really think about acting. It's like, I'm an actor. Oh, and then I would see him work, and I go, oh my God, like, but you'd see he has all these talents, and so that makes it, and that's probably for you with music. It's the same with us with comedy. Comedy is like the perfect lily pad because you can jump into different directions onto another thing. So anytime you get tired of one thing, you can go to another, or if it's slow. And like, that's why I love podcasting. And that's why, you know, Richie and Vicky are so vital to the Drinks, Jokes, and Storytelling platform. Is they could be radio personalities and not comedians. You know what I mean? Like, that's another venue that they could just be doing, and I wouldn't even know they were comedians. Like, they can jump in any direction, which makes it more tolerable to be going through this pandemic scenario. To, you know, we've done script readings. Richie and I've done them on Zoom. We're going to do one live next week, which is really exciting. And like Vicky, we just met because of the pandemic. You know, so it's and now Jason, now we know you because of Justin, because of the pandemic. We met Justin doing podcasting.
I love the fact that we've taken away geography away from, you know, I regularly have guests from Europe and Australia and Africa. I mean, that's the coolest thing, is I would never have met these people if it wasn't for this technology. It wasn't for this kind of back and forth conversation. I just think that we can all learn so much from each other, and we can have a great time, and we can learn, and we can inspire people to go out and to do their best.
I have a question for all of you guys. What is the moment, Jason, I'll ask you first. When is the moment that you realized music was something that you knew you wanted to do with your life?
And I was 4 or 5. First time I sang in front of an audience, I was always singing at home. Just, it was there, you know, it was like, wasn't even a thought. So I got in front of people and I just sang a solo, who knows what it was, and just, it was always there. I had a beautiful soprano voice, and that just kind of, and singing was always my first love. And that kind of, you know, that, and it was more than that. I felt the music. I've always felt the music. I have this kind of like, I feel what, like, you know, my goal is to, as a conductor, is to channel the energy of the composer, and like an electric wire, to give that to the audience, is to embody that music, what makes it great, understand it, and then be the transmitter. Nothing more than that. It's just that kind of that transmission of the composer's intent to the audience. And, you know, it's supposed to be visceral and exciting. And if I've done my job, people are moved. That's why this music survives, classical music in particular.
I love
So
that.
I knew it at a very young age, and I have a lot of musical like genres that I love. I love rock and roll. I love R&B, and jazz certainly. Opera has been part of my career for a long time. So professionally, I love opera too. I find the power in most music. I really like, and I've learned, and I love to talk about the artists that created because I learn from them too. So I'm always learning, and that's what's the best about my job. Is I guess all jobs is that. The more you dig in, the more you learn that there is to learn.
Yeah.
That's
Okay, I
awesome.
got a question. I have to interrupt this. Are you generally more of a lyric person or a melody person?
Yeah, probably melody first. Usually it's the rhythm or the melody grabs me, and then the lyrics are second. But when you're studying, like when I'm learning an opera, let's say another language, Italian, I speak Italian, but I'll have to translate everything, go through the whole libretto, write in the libretto first, know the translation, then I put the music on top of it. That's the process of learning a score like that. It takes me, once I first started, it took me a long time, but I've done like 40, 50 operas now. So you get used to them and how you spot the trends in composers. Like I know Beethoven up and down. Like I know all of his symphonies. I know his concertos. I know how he's thinking. I know what he was doing in his life when these pieces were written. That's the research I do before I tackle a piece like that. Because these pieces are like holy scripture. It's like one of the greatest minds. And we got to know these minds to be able to kind of make their music come alive. So I read a lot about it. If it's a new composer, I spend lots of time with it. If it's, I just love that kind of immersive experience. And that's why, when I get up in front of a professional orchestra, I feel confident to say, this is what I want. This is how it should be.
Do you like La Boheme? And do you like Jonathan Larson's Rent? What do you think?
I do. I think I love the idea of, I don't think opera is a museum piece. Okay. I hate that. I hate when people think classical music is boring and stodgy. And most of the time, because when I'm backstage at one of those shows, I'm listening to Queensryche or I'm getting myself pumped because I got to get out there. I take a day off before I conduct because I have to get out there and deliver. It's like my mental.
You only listen to Queensryche for the Symphony of Destruction.
Those guys are awesome. I'd love to have them on my show.
One of the greatest voices.
Jeff Tate, yeah, that guy could sing.
Yeah.
He had some opera training too. He had some classical training.
He did. There's a great version of him doing Heaven on Their Minds from Jesus Christ Superstar.
Oh my God, I love Jesus Christ Superstar.
All right, wait, I have to hear Richie's answer to melody or lyrics because I know Richie's taste in music and I don't know if I know what drives him to his songs.
Definitely melody.
Melody? Because I know you're a Beatles freak. And they kind of straddle both.
I'm a Pink Floyd freak. But then for me, it's the melody, but I want it. If the lyrics suck, I'm probably going to lose interest. So there's got to be both to some degree. But especially we're wordsmiths, Mark. I mean, let's face it, it's what we do.
Yeah.
So, but the melody's definitely the thing that's going to grab me first.
Wow.
And talent. You know what? Talent more than anything.
Yeah.
If I hear a great singer or a great guitarist, that's just going to bring you right in. I mean, God, the first time I put on Eruption, I almost killed myself. It was just like, what? Yeah. How is this possible? That this man.
Eddie Van Halen was so hard. Eddie Van Halen and Neil Peart in the same year was just brutal.
You're right.
My God, right?
Jason, how old are you?
I am 37. I just 47. I just turned 47 in December 29th.
Okay, so you're younger than me because I was lucky enough to have a brother who was a year older who went to every concert in the 70s and would come home and tell me about the opening acts. I mean, he saw AC/DC open for Black Sabbath. He saw Van Halen open for like Jethro Tull or somebody.
I was on the same cruise ship as him and he didn't even come see me.
That's right. He didn't see me.
There were too many bands on the ship.
Yeah, he loves band. No, that's my younger brother. This is my older brother. But
okay.
Then we'd run out and buy the albums before, because back and you'd hear these bands and go, "What the fuck is this?" And then all of a sudden they'd explode to be who they
right.
I mean, Rush, Jesus, Rush.
Oh my God,
Rush.
I got to experience something wild. My youngest son is 17, but he's a very serious jazz and fusion rock drummer, and he went on tour with John Anderson of Yes. And they played all the Yes music. I was so busy this summer, but I could only see him in one show. So I had to fly to Chicago to catch my kid play at Reggie's Rock Club. And I got to see like John Anderson like wail with my son on the drum. It was so cool.
You know, before the pandemic.
Knowing your son's a Rush fan, I think I know where you stand on legalizing pot.
Before the pandemic, I noticed I would play a few theaters like in Connecticut or whatever. And John Anderson was coming to all those theaters. And I was like, wow, cool, man. I'd love to see him because just an amazing voice.
Got to be 75. But boy, the old time performers like those legends, man, they know they've got their set down, right? They think watching the great comedians work. They have their whole like performance is kind of they know exactly what they're doing. They know how to give when they're like crafty lefty pitchers, right? They don't give more than they have to give. They're smart.
Right.
You know, they know how to always give their best and kind of channel their energy. It's fascinating.
My favorite band of that time period is Queen. Freddie Mercury was amazing, so theatrical. I just think they all played amazing. Some people hate them. I love them. I just think they're awesome, and I think
they were so like, theatrical too.
Yeah, so theatrical, costumes, all that kind of stuff, and I just think they're fantastic.
All right, Vicky, now I have to ask you, because now thinking you know a lot of Broadway stuff, so I'm wondering what grabs you, the melody or the lyrics?
Usually it's the melody, and I'm terrible with remembering correct lyrics, and I'll just make up lyrics. I will make up
Richie
lyrics.
does a whole bit about that.
I do. All the time. I will just make them up. And so if I don't know the lyrics, I'll make them up to fit the refrain, and it's all good.
So I'm the only one in the group who is the lyrics guy. Everybody else.
I'm going to make a point about that because in classical music, I guess it's in everything though, because I find synchronicities across the platforms. So if you go from classical, even the best composers writing, let's say an opera, for example, and I'm sure it's the same with musicals. If the libretto is bad, the opera is not great. I mean, it has to be the combination of the two, even though the music is going to get most of the kind of limelight. But I think without the right words.
This being said, I understand they're both so important.
Your neck feeling, you know what I mean? Like I remember when I was 5, my dad took me to a local high school production of West Side Story, and hearing that overture. I mean, it was a high school band, but hearing that overture, I will never forget that feeling of the hair on the back of my neck going up, live music, hearing the brass section, and just being like, oh my God, what is this? And I will never forget that feeling. So whenever I hear live music, if I get that feeling and it's a new song, that's what I'm looking for. You know what I mean? So
you know who wrote some of the lyrics to West Side Story? Sondheim.
I know, Stephen Sondheim.
And he hated
crazy.
He hated and you think about it, I saw an interview with him when he was talking about Maria, the song Maria. And he's like, he just keeps saying Maria over and over. And I never realized that. And he's right. But it was, you know what I mean? You just laugh and go, wow, look at the guy who wrote it. And he's going, man, how bad is this? This is terrible.
But you're right. Lyrics can ruin a song. They can ruin a song so bad. Like, have you guys seen the Broadway show? It's the one all about the 80s. I'm going to lose my mind if I can't remember. I've seen it like 20 times now.
Mamma Mia or
Rock of Ages?
Rock of Ages, yeah. And it's the character where he's singing the song, Heaven Isn't Too Far Away.
Warrant.
And then he has that first line, right? And then he makes up the next line, and it's not the right lyrics, you know, and it's not even close to being what it is. And you can see everyone in the room go, ugh. And he's like, no, let me try it again. Let me try it again. So he sings another one about boobs, and everyone's like, no. And it's so funny. It just goes to show, like, wrong lyrics, how bad it can ruin a song. And it's so funny. So that's a great example of, like, what not to say, you know?
To me, there's guys like Townes Van Zandt who necessarily aren't the most pretty voices or the most grabs your ear, but the story of what he's singing and the lyrics are so good that I actually kind of prefer his version over when somebody takes his song and does it pretty, because you really feel it.
Yeah.
And I feel like if it has really great lyrics, I am so in, even if the music isn't as good. Where if it has really great music and I start listening and the lyrics suck, I'm like, I get that this is catchy, but I can't listen to it anymore.
Well, like Weird Al Yankovic, when he would change lyrics to stuff, I would laugh my head off sometimes, and sometimes I might not like the original song, but if he had changed the lyrics, I would then like the song, and I'd be like, "Oh my god, this is hilarious!" Just because it was so funny, you know.
My friend
Vicky,
booked the
you would
orchestra
love
for
my
Weird Al's
kids.
tour. I'm like, that's got to be fun. He booked all the orchestra player for Weird Al's concert tours of all random things.
My kids, they've never heard Weird Al yet, but they do the Weird Al thing.
I love it.
They change the lyrics to songs to roast me and my wife. They're 6 and 7 years old, and they're already roasting us. So
I just saw there's a new video out of My Sweet Lord. I don't know why, and Fred Armisen is the star of it.
wow.
And Weird Al's, there's like everybody's in the video. Weird Al's in the video, and even now you're like, I don't know why Weird Al's in this video, but like, you know what I mean? But okay, none of it makes sense to me. But it's.
I wonder if he writes serious music under a different name. A lot of those guys do.
Probably.
I wonder. That's just
very
strange.
talented man. I mean, he's a very talented man.
Oh, he is.
Other stuff. That's just his Weird Al persona, you know.
And does play accordion.
He does. There you go. Bringing it
But
back.
he is a gentleman. He doesn't always play it.
I have another accordion joke. If I have one more, if I may embarrass
We
myself.
never say no to jokes.
Let's hear it.
You never say no to accordion jokes. That's
How is a terrorist different than an accordion player?
Ooh.
The terrorists have sympathizers.
I love it.
Once again, apologize to my very talented accordion colleagues.
no accordion players, which is strange.
I love that you're doing this because last night we talked about accordions on 101.5.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So, and this is anybody out there in the music industry that's watching. There's a book called Me, the Music, and the Mob, and it's the Tommy James and the Shondells. It's Tommy James's story.
That was really good. I saw him at Ocean Grove. I love him performing. He's great live. He's had to be in his 70s, and he came to. I'm the music director at Ocean Grove, and Tommy James played down there twice, and he rocked the house, man. I really had a great time at that concert.
The book is so good, and it's all about how the mob was involved in the music business, roulette records, all that stuff. But the reason it got brought up was a second cousin of mine was in the Shondells, and he played the accordion and the piano for him.
Oh, wow.
And my dad, and his real name's Clarence, but he goes by Ronnie in the Shondells. They both played accordion together and used to have to take lessons. And he goes, Clarence's mom made him go do it 1 hour a day every single day, where my mom didn't, and that's why he was in the Shondells and I wasn't.
And I kid around. I saw Flogging Molly at Asbury Park a couple of years ago with my boys, and they had an amazing accordion player in the band, and it made that kind of Irish punk rock with accordion, gave it that authenticity, that kind of Celtic sound. I loved it. I'm just kidding around, but
did you hear Elizabeth's, or did you see her comment? No accordion players were hurt in the making of that joke.
Elizabeth, that was good.
When the
if I
audience
was going to do classical versions, it'd probably be viola jokes. The poor viola players. There's a lot, even composers used to rag on viola players for some reasons.
You have to. It's such a goofy instrument. It's the goofiest instrument of all time.
So you guys know how there's true crime was a big thing during this. I just watched a true crime show last night about the Met. There was a murder at the Met. So it's on Oxygen if you're interested.
Wow.
And it was a woman in the orchestra who played the violin. This. She played the violin, and she went missing mid-show. And they couldn't find her. They were like, well, I guess we got to continue, right? And
spoiler alert, it was Mr. Met.
That would be a total game changer. But they found her body. She had fallen through near the elevator. She had fallen. They found her in the elevator shaft. And it was crazy. Wow. I hadn't heard of it. It happened in the 90s.
Yeah. I remember. Yeah. I remember it was a big deal. Yeah.
Theater can be a dangerous place.
Now that you say this,
Theater can be a dangerous place.
Now that you say this, it makes me laugh.
Theater can be a dangerous place.
Now that you say this,
I'm not going to tell you who did it, but it was crazy because the cops actually moved into the Met and they interviewed everybody that was going in and out for days and days until they solved it. It was interesting.
It was the accordion player.
Wouldn't that be crazy?
There, you know, now that you mention it, there was a lot of episodes of Law and Order that had to do with conductors, symphonies, orchestras. There's a lot of them out there.
You know why? Because people don't know a lot about it, so they're like fascinated by, what's it like to be in front of a large orchestra or be a member of a string section? It's different, you know.
All right, now does anybody else get the vibe? Because Jason, your voice, your speaking voice, reminds me of Sam Kinison. Have you ever heard that before?
I can't scream like him, unfortunately.
Well, you should, because you're a singer.
My God, that guy was he must have been a dynamic preacher too. Can you imagine being in church with Sam Kinison?
Seen him as a preacher, yeah.
Talk about a crazy change of career.
Jason, I have a question for you. Do you have, and I really mean this, are there conductors that you go, wow, that guy's a rock star? Like,
there's a few. And you know, for me, it's mostly you know, the rock star thing. Just like we were talking about the celebrities, I was reading a Dopey Onion article and it just made me laugh. It's like the celebrities are all going their yachts and they're spelling out "we're in this together" on their yachts as the COVID was happening. It just made me laugh because we were talking about journeyman. I'm like, if you look up journeyman in the dictionary, you're going to find a picture of me conducting. That's a lot like how I, you know. But yeah, I think so.
Because I the other night, ironically, I couldn't sleep and I went on YouTube. I love doing that. I love just going on YouTube and finding like whatever you want to look at. And suddenly it'll take you, and suddenly you're looking at something. And I ended up seeing Victor Borga,
who's great.
And he was conducting an orchestra, and it was the funniest thing I've ever seen in my life. He didn't have enough room on the stand for the paperwork, so he was putting it like into the stand. It was just,
you know, I've got so many stories of things like that. Like Victor Borga is hysterical because he would come up with these great gags and he was a very talented man too.
Yeah, he was.
I've had situations like that happen in professional performances, and I've been doing it for so long. I was doing a Rigoletto in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania. And the set fell through the curtain into the pit, and no one was hurt. You know, it was just like one of those things, and it wasn't funny at the time, but it was pretty funny if I watched the video. If it was, thank God it doesn't exist. But I was conducting, and I'm like, we had to catch the stand, put it back up, and they had to start again. We've had all sorts of things fall in the pit. I've seen at the Met or other places. I mean, the thing about like a live performance is anything can happen. It's anything can happen. People forget their words regularly. Most times I conduct an opera, I'm saving the production somehow because I can see someone's about to come in early. I'm like, wait, okay, now go. It's not choreography. It's like living in the moment and being there. It must be just like doing a set as a comic and having to change your set based on how the audience is responding. It's not, if you come in with a game plan and you're not willing to change, you're going to suck, right? I mean,
yeah. How many times have we watched comics and they're just oblivious to the audience, started to tune them out because they're not in the moment, and they just,
It's all about connecting, just like what you said. You've got to connect. You're having a conversation. And I would think it's like you with the music. You're having a conversation with your audience.
My first Broadway show was Jesus Christ Superstar, and Judas fell into the orchestra pit.
Oh, no!
Really?
Opening song, it comes out, Jesus, not alive!
Are you serious? Oh my
God.
Dude,
and you can hear instruments going.
I had a mentor in college who told the story. They were doing a production of Oklahoma, and when Curly's singing "Chicks and Ducks and Geese Better Scurry," the director came up with this idea to have chicks and ducks and geese scurry onto the stage. But
what a bad idea!
They're in rehearsal, and these birds are just going crazy all over. Came up with the idea to tie their legs together.
No.
And have a lead chick, and then the chick would run across the stage, and they'd all follow. And it worked like 3 nights of rehearsal. It worked great. Opening night, the lead chick got nervous and made a right and went right into into the orchestra pit. He said all you heard was like, and all the quacking. And it must have been, I would have died laughing if I were there for that.
We're going to name that chick McNugget.
Oh my God.
And Richie's so old school, he's actually talking about the leading woman.
Oh my God. That is crazy.
Oh my God.
I have to ask, so what are some of the, you guys are all such wonderful performers. What are some of the funniest moments, like when you look back over your careers, that have happened to you on the stage that maybe weren't funny at the time, but in retrospect?
I'll tell you
comics or in general?
Up to you.
When I was in high school, I was doing a play at the girls' school, a girls' high school, and it was my first leading role. I was Tom in No No Nanette. I even remember. And
I love that show.
I was so nervous, and I did the first couple of days, and then we were doing a special show for the grammar school during the day. So the grades 1 through 8 were going to come and see the show. And I remember being off stage, and there were 3 girls off stage, and they were all talking about, wow, you have so many lines to learn and all the music and now I'm feeling like hot shit, right? I'm like, I know it's a lot of work. I think I'm hot. So I go out to do a number with the girl playing the net, and I look out, and all these kids are laughing, and I'm like, what the hell? And they're all like almost like crying, laughing, and pointing. My fly was open.
Oh man.
XYZ.
It was that was probably the most. I was 16, probably the most embarrassing moment in my career.
You only make that mistake once.
Yes.
Oh my God.
I constantly think my zipper's down when I'm on stage. I can
really?
figure out a reason to rub my leg and just put my thumb out and okay, it's zipped.
You know what? I always have to, and I think Mark, you know this. I always have to go to the bathroom right before I go on. It's like, I'm so afraid to not go to the bathroom right before I go on. So I was doing MTV had Comedy Central had a show back in the 90s, stand up or one of those. And I was on that show, and Daryl Hammond was on the show. We're backstage and the show starts, and I go over to the stage manager, and Daryl's with the stage manager, and I go, listen, when am I going on exactly? And Daryl goes, that's what I'm asking. And she goes, well, why do you guys need to know? I'm like, because I have to go to the bathroom right before. And Daryl goes, me too. I have to know. And the stage manager goes, you guys know you're only doing 7 minutes, right? You're so used to doing an hour. She
hands you an empty Coke can. Here you
7
go.
minutes of material, and I got to worry about going to the bathroom.
That's hilarious. I'll tell you an embarrassing thing. So I toured with a theater company called Missoula Children's Theater, and that's where you bring the sets, lights, costumes, makeup. You do a show in 5 days. You cast all the local kids. I was in Alice in Wonderland, so I played the Queen of Hearts and also directed the show, and then you have a co-director with you, and he played the White Rabbit, and we cast 75 local kids. Well, this town that we were in, this was in 1998. We didn't have enough kids. We were in Wyoming. We were in Rodeo Hall, and it was the Saturday dress rehearsal. No, not dress rehearsal, the Saturday matinee. So we're in the middle of the show. I'm in the middle of singing this song about the cards, and the cards are supposed to shuffle at one point. That's their dance that they're doing, but not at the point of the song that I'm in. So I'm singing, and I'm like, why are the cards shuffling right now? They're not supposed to shuffle. And I realized that card number 5 is throwing up all over the stage. And I'm like, oh, damn it. What are we going to do? So I finished the song, and I'm like, we're going to take a brief intermission. And I see one of the moms we had cast as a flower because we didn't have enough kids. And she comes running out dressed as a flower, grabs the kid, runs off the stage. We decide to have, an impromptu intermission. We clean up the stage. We finish the show. So that night we're packing up the truck, and this dad comes over in a 10-gallon hat, and he's like, Ricky, let me tell you something. I thought I had seen it all here in Casey, Wyoming, but a child throwing up in the middle of the show, well, that just beats all. And I was like, well, you are right, sir. Thank you so much. And
you
he
do
goes,
theater long enough and everything's going to happen.
Yeah,
Anything can happen in live performance. So I love about live performance.
yeah, he goes, let me tell you, we did the Christmas pageant this year, and the angel of the Lord, we had her, so she was going to come down. We tied her up, so she was going to come down. She forgot what the Lord was supposed to say. And in the middle, she goes, what the hell did God say? Yeah. But a child throwing up, that beats that. And I will never forget that story ever. It was like the funniest thing that's ever happened.
Meanwhile, the guy's thinking like, how did they get that kid to throw up on cue every show?
Right? Like, I was just
like,
my first professional job in theater was at a dinner theater in Mount Gretna, Pennsylvania. And
stop bragging.
Yeah, and it was a musical review, and at one point we paid homage to Disney. I remember, and there were like 8 cast members, and we were doing supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. And at one point, the cast members all had signs that said supercalifragilistic. And then my job was to go into the audience, bring somebody up because I was the funny guy, and have them kind of ad-lib and have them try and say it, supercalifragilistic. So every night, nobody wanted to come up. And it was timed with the music, so every night it was just a pain in the ass trying, and I realized I have to just be assertive and I went out one night and there was a woman in the audience and I grabbed her and I go, you're coming up with me. And she goes, no. And I go, you're coming up. And I turned to this and bringing her up. I noticed everybody on stage is going,
oh no.
She had no arms.
Oh.
I didn't realize it. She only had and God bless her. She was a trooper. She literally went super color to the side.
No.
I almost got fired because I was like, I swear to God, I didn't notice. I just didn't.
Richie, you have one job.
Oh God.
The thing that to me that was the funniest thing looking back, but at the time I just was heartbroken is I was working for Mike Kinney. I was upstate New York, and it was Good Friday, and I was doing the weekend up there. It's Good Friday, and it was in Troy, New York, and as the MC, the guy who owns the club, was bringing me on stage. I'm on the phone with the guy who owns the club that I worked for in New York City, that I was like the door guy, and he was basically firing me, which I got the job back. But he was basically firing me as I'm like, Carrie, they're bringing me on stage. Like, can we talk about this Monday? And I hang up my phone. I go out on stage, and like my first 3 jokes, because I'm so out of it, bomb. And so I think I'll make fun of the town. That'll win them over.
Yeah.
So I go, if this is Troy, I'm with the Romans. And they started booing. Somebody threw a dinner roll at me.
Oh, no.
I get hit in the head with a dinner roll. And I go, and on Good Friday, now I know what Jesus went through. And I thought it was funny. Guy in the front row leans in and goes, yeah, but Jesus is coming back.
Oh.
Yeah, a great line.
And I was like,
down.
I was so mad. I was so mad and frustrated, and I was green. I was a new comic, and I just got so mad. I like got off stage. I and was pissed off and yelling at everybody, and didn't know how to handle it. Instead of saying, now when I tell the story, I go, and I was like, "Hey, you guys are funnier than me. Time for me to get off stage." But in reality, I'm like, "You goddamn!" I storm off stage. The MC goes back on, and I was working with my buddy, and he's been doing comedy forever. And he looks at me and he goes, "You ever in high school remember when you go to get your shots? Everybody goes and gets their shots, and you see the class bully start crying, That's what I just went through.
That's awesome. I had a show in.
I laugh about it now, but at the time, it was devastating.
Oh, I bet.
I had a show in 2019. I was doing the Messiah down at Ocean Grove, and it's a big summer concert. There's thousands of people out there, and there was 150 people in the chorus and a large orchestra and the whole 9 yards. It's a beautiful thing, and I should have known. I was walking. It was on the boardwalk at Asbury, and they were setting up. And I'm like, "What's this huge soundstage?" They were setting up. The Jonas Brothers were going to record 2 sets for MTV Music Awards or something like that. I'm like, okay, that's interesting. So I didn't put the two into that the next day. It's going to be during my performance. All right. So there were helicopters flying around. You could hear this. The doors are open in my venue. It's basically an open air summer 6,000 seat theater. So we're sitting there, and twice during the Messiah, fireworks start going.
Oh my God!
During my performance, I'm conducting. Pow, pow. Shit goes off everywhere. The artists are trying to maintain, like, well, we can't hear each other. Then that goes over. We start again. And 20 minutes later, they shot the seconds and the same thing happened. No. It was like one of those things. I'm like, oh my God. A year later, I was doing a ballet with the bass player for the Gaslight Anthem. And he's like, oh yeah, I remember that because he's friends with the Jonas Brothers. We grew up together or something like that. And he goes, I parked in Ocean Grove, walked past your Messiah, caught some of your show. I really liked it. Then I walked over, went backstage and hung out with them.
Oh my God, that's a riot.
It wasn't funny while I was working because the show must go on and you're working. I'm like, what the goddamn, trying to do a show here. What are you going to do?
Well, it's so funny because when in the moment you always get flustered because the show's not going the way you want it. But then when you look back on it, you're like, I could have used that in the thing. I mean, for you, I guess you can't because you can't turn to the audience and go, "Goddamn Jonas Brothers!"
Yeah. It's funny after the fact. I don't like their music anyway, but
now you really hate.
Really don't. But it was funny. This past summer, we had my first orchestra show back, same venue, and we had an active tornado warning. We're doing Beethoven's Fifth Symphony, which is about the victory of light over darkness. That's was Beethoven's whole kind of thought process behind the piece. And it was raining as hard as I've ever seen it rain. There's thunder, lightning, and the phones start going off because you can't turn those off. Even though they're silent, they still start beeping and blurping as the warnings come through. So that was happening while I'm doing Beethoven concert. It was like a nightmare. Like, is that a woodwind instrument? Anyway, but it made it really cool because as soon as we got to it goes to C major on the fourth movement, that's where the light achieves the victory over darkness. The rain stopped, the sky, by the time we finished, it was like beautiful outside. It was like Beethoven would have loved it because it was extra stormy.
We should probably wrap up. We're at the a little over an hour.
We're far into it. Wow, this went fast, man.
It did. It flew by.
We have to have you back. This was it was a lot of fun. Love talking art. Love talking to artists, especially who do actual art, not just tell dick jokes.
I always say it must be so hard to put your sets together, and whatever the material is, that's superfluous. Well, it's all about the construction, right?
Mark's talking about me though when he says that.
Oh, come on. He was talking about me. Come on.
Let's do a little round robin where people can find you on the socials and what you're up to. If there's anything you want to plug, we'll start with Vicky. Vicky, what do you got going on? Where can people find you?
People can find me on Instagram. It's Vicky Plummer Comedian, and you spell Vicky Vickie because there's like a million spellings. I'm actually working on a benefit show. We just got our headliner, Tom Cotter, and we're doing a benefit show on January 23rd at Broadway Comedy Club at 7 p.m.
I'm sorry we couldn't do it. Both Mark and I are busy. That sucks.
I know. I asked you guys to do it, but it also was very short notice. But I'm going to do more benefits, so I will have you guys on definitely. But it's for the victims of the Bronx fire, and so 100% of the ticket sales are going to the fire fund. And Al Martin, owner of the Broadway Comedy Club, is so awesome. He has given us the room for free so that we can take all of those ticket sales and give them all to the victims of the fire fund. So we are super excited. It's going up on the website today. I'm in the process of getting the poster design by somebody, and that's going up today. So I'm very excited about that.
Excellent. Richie,
Very
where can people find you?
Who cares? I got nothing going on right now. We would be remiss not to mention, though, that we lost a great one in Bob Staggett the other day.
Yeah.
And I didn't know him personally, but we had a lot of mutual friends. And, man, I mean, Mark, I know you probably, too. I mean, everything they're saying about him now that he passed, they were saying about him when he was alive.
Yeah, the guy was a gentleman.
This guy, from what I understand.
When we go out, I have a fun Bob Saget story we'll go out on.
Okay, cool. Cool.
Jason, where can people find you on the socials?
Oh, my name under Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, all that stuff, the normal places. I've been putting a lot of time into my YouTube channel since there was not so much conducting in the last 2 years, but as I'm getting back to it. But my YouTube channel has both my podcast, Music Matters with Jason Tramm, and also lots of my conducting examples. You'll find, as I said, I was a journeyman. I've got me conducting with large orchestras and opera companies to smaller, more intimate things. And that was a great place to find me. I've got a recording coming out this Saturday. I've got Tchaikovsky's Piano Concerto. I just recorded at the Domena Center with my orchestra, the Mid-Atlantic Philharmonic, and piano soloist Karine Pagosian, a wonderful pianist from New York City. So join me. I'd love to catch up with people, and feel free to reach out.
That's awesome. Yes, and make sure you guys subscribe to his podcast and or his YouTube channel, because there's a lot of fun stuff there. I was checking it out when Justin introduced us, so I started checking your stuff out. Very good stuff. You can please subscribe, share this, let people know that we do this regularly. You can get us on YouTube or Twitch or Facebook, whichever your preferred thing is. And you can check me out at markricadonna.com. You can find all my socials there. So check those out. But tonight at the comic strip, come and see. We'll be there. Jason and I will both be there hanging out. So come to the comic strip. I'll leave with this. This is Bob Saget. This is a true. This is how great of a guy he was. He used to regularly come in the Stand Up New York, and anytime he was in New York, he would pop in. And he came in one time because the cast of Full House was doing a reunion show, and they all came to the comedy club. So the entire cast of Full House is in the back of the club. They showed up a little late. They go in the back. Rebecca Romaine Stamos is sitting there with John Stamos, and it's all the kids and everybody. Dave Coulier and Bob Saget are going to go up and do some stand-up. So they go up, and Bob Saget, hysterical. Everyone thinks of him as like dad, clean dad, America's Funniest Home Videos, Danny Tanner. And he's up there talking about how minty John Stamos's ass is, and how he slept with the Olsen twins before they were famous. And we're all dying laughing. Dave Coulier goes up. He does his thing. They get off stage. And Corey Kahaney actually wrote about this on Facebook the other day, and I forgot about this part of it. This is the icing on the cake. Corey's daughter just turned 21. She's bartending. And she's sitting there mixing drinks, and all of the Full House uncles are sitting by her, and they all know Corey, and they're flirting with her very innocently, nothing creepy. They're all just going, I can't believe this is Corey's daughter. You're so gorgeous. You're so beautiful, blah, blah, blah. And she's just sitting there mixing their drinks going, stop ruining my childhood. Stop ruining my childhood. That's awesome. Drinks, Jokes, and Storytelling. Thank you for tuning in.